back to hour number 20. I'm getting confused. It's kind of early, but also late. It's absolutely loving seeing you. The overall session title is Open for STEM. But I think there's a lot more exciting things happening underneath, and we have a lovely team consisting of Dorothy, Anna, and Arne, who will all share STEM-related OER and open educational projects from different countries, namely Germany, Latin America, as well as South Africa, and South Africa in collaboration with Italy and Portugal, I believe. Sorry, that's a lot in your session. And it seems to be all about, which I found most interesting reading into your projects, also co-creation and collaboration. So I'm not the most important person here, so I'm giving the stage to Dorothy to please start. I'm assuming you look like you're ready, and kindly share your slides. And just a quick question to everyone. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat right away and I can collect them. You can also unmute your microphone later if you would like to, but please feel free to share them right now. Then we have a rough idea if you do have specific questions. Otherwise, we can always go deeper into the existing topics. Thank you, Dorothy. There you go.
Thanks so much, Tina. Welcome, everybody. Good morning to you all. I'm going to be talking about EU-funded project, the Ted-SOEP project. So let's get straight into that. I'm just going to skip through the agenda. So why is open so important for STEM education? I think globally and particularly in South Africa, we still wrestle with access, contextual relevance, and keeping pace with change. So simply providing static material is really not enough. We've seen that. And we need teachers and students who are self-directed learners, and we need open adaptable resources and practices that can be localized and continuously improved. And that's the space that the Ted-SOEP project operates in. So Ted-SOEP is a 24-month Erasmus Plus capacity building project, like Tina mentioned, collaborating with different European partners as well as South African partners. The core purpose is to build a bridge between the South African and the European universities so that we can integrate the self-directed learning and also the open educational practices and resources into STEM teacher education. So basically, we want to make open and self-directed part of how we prepare future STEM teachers. So the partners, here they are. Northwest University is the university that I'm from. We're the coordinating partner. We have 4 other universities in South Africa and then the 3 European partners, and each one brings their own expertise to the project. Our objectives, first of all, to build the capacity of lecturers and teacher students being students who are currently studying to become teachers. And second, creating a living environment, not just a static repository for open STEM teacher resources. And thirdly, to influence institutions and policy through practical guidelines and recommendations. So the logic is quite simple but intentional. We start with people through capacity building, and we support them with tangible resources in an open repository. That happens in one of our work packages. And then we move on to working with leaders and policymakers to embed those practices structurally through the guidelines that we will be creating. And obviously throughout that, project management, dissemination, and quality runs across all of it. So Work Package 2 is where we started, and it's really where the project becomes very concrete. Participants experienced and designed various aspects around STEM education. We worked with inquiry-based learning, problem-based learning, simulation, and game-based learning, all related to STEM education, and all of that underpinned by the concept of openness, OER, and self-directed learning. And this all happened at a face-to-face training week in Florence, where our expert colleagues from the University of Florence did the training. And after that training, the South African partners returned home to implement national workshops so that we could cascade the learning and multiply the impact of the project in our own context. As far as the national workshops are concerned, we again, because we are 5 partners in South Africa, we presented 5 sets of national workshops with various groups of students and lecturers at the 5 different institutions in South Africa. I'll focus a little bit more on what we did at the Northwest University, but it was quite similar at the other institutions as well. So we implemented 5 workshops based on what we learned in Florence, and we implemented it with final year maths education students who are training to become teachers. We have 3 different campuses at our university, so we implemented it at the 3 different campuses, and we had around about between 40 and 50 participants each session. And what's really important and I think really impactful is that we integrated this into their curriculum. So we actually embedded these programs, these workshops, into their didactics component of their mathematics modules. And obviously we delivered it synchronously across the campuses via MS Teams and in person. So we had people in the venues as well to make sure that all our students had a shared and a similar learning experience. And our focus was on cooperative learning, inquiry-based learning, game-based learning, problem-based learning, and OER and OEP. So very much student-centered strategies that we try to instill in the students and in the program. We tried to make it as hands-on as possible in order to promote that self-directed learning. So we used strategies like the jigsaw method, we used the gig method, and we applied it to their content. So we applied it specifically to the work they were doing at that stage, which was matrices, and we used cooperative learning. We also used the 5E sequence for inquiry-based learning, and there we applied it to the work on vectors. We created a game called Vector Voyage on GeoGebra for the game-based learning section. We did a problem-based learning in linear programming, and then we did OER search and evaluation. So as far as the participants' satisfaction and participation is concerned, the 43 respondents who actually completed the questionnaire had really positive ratings. You can see some of those relevance. They thought it was 8.84 out of 10, methodology, all above 8 for accessibility of resources, clarity, training, competence. And also then the impact on self-directed learning and openness. The students described the workshops as interesting and engaging, exposing them to new and innovative open resources and technologies, inspiring them to do new and different things in their teaching and research, which is really what we'd like to see, is having that impact in their teaching in the classes as well. And then also obviously modeling how OER, OEP, and active methods can foster self-directed learning. So what we're moving on to now is to shift from the skills that we've developed to the actual artifacts, and we are in the process of creating the repository, which is going to host at least 140 open STEM teaching resources and practice examples. All of those are going to be reviewed and adapted for the South African context, or even created for the South African context. We had again a session of training in Potchefstroom, that's my town in Northwest in South Africa, where our colleagues from Portugal actually presented another round of modules, and those were focused on OER and copyright, Creative Commons, AI-powered robotics through hackathons, active learning in STEM, practical approaches to gamification and game-based learning, and also then showcasing what was actually being designed in those workshops. And again, the intention is that the national workshops get replicated by each South African partner to cascade the learning. What we're then moving towards is from policy to practice. We know that individual practice is not enough. We need to make some kind of change at institutional level. So we need institutional frameworks that support this open, self-directed STEM teaching and teacher education. So here we're going to be focusing on the leaders from our universities, and we will co-create guidelines and practical tools, and then take those back to our institutions for discussion and adoption. The focus is going to be on practical processes, indicators, and strategies like how to integrate OER and OEP into programs and modules, and also how to monitor the quality and the impact on STEM teaching and on self-directed learning. By the end of the project, we expect not only better equipped STEM lecturers and teacher students who will go out into the field of teaching, but also we will have a rich repository of resources tailored specifically for the South African context, which we're really excited about. And also through the guidelines and the policy recommendations, we will have clear institutional pathways of how to integrate this openness and self-directed learning into STEM education, specifically higher education in South Africa. And obviously the strengthened South African EU collaboration and the community of practice that we've already established around STEM education is absolutely invaluable. The longer term impact is hopefully a shift towards a culture where open, collaborative and self-directed learning is normal and common in STEM teacher education. So to close, the Ted-SOEP project shows how Open for STEM can be approached systemically, from working with people to resources to policy. The project is obviously still in progress, and we're working on populating the repository, and we'll be moving towards the guidelines with further workshops as well and research. But we've really seen the value of this collaboration and the building of diverse international community of practice to build a sustainable ecosystem for STEM education and openness in South Africa. And also great thanks to the European Union for funding that could make this project possible. And that's all from me for now. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Dorothy. Actually, I think we might pick up 2 quick questions from the chat, Dorothy, that we can then later on pass on to Arne and Anna in the different contexts. So number 1 would be from Kristen. Thank you. Sorry, I'm in a rush. Time is so tight. Do you see specific potential in OER to increase the engagement of women and girls, which remains a challenge in a lot of places? Does it play a role in Ted-SOEP in your project, Dorothy?
Not specifically, but I definitely do see the potential, yes. The fact that we empower our lecturers and our students to be involved in this creation of OERs, definitely the focus could be on empowering girls. And I know it is definitely a big problem and an issue, especially in South Africa. I think it's a worldwide thing, but South Africa definitely experiences that. So it's not a specific focus of our project, but definitely something that I think we will be able to address through the project.
Muted myself. Thank you, Dorothy. And I'll pick up on one other question by Anna. Dorothy, you repeatedly mentioned created for the South African context, and that's where Anna puts her question. Have you found any topics, suggestions, practices that were shared by the EU partners that could not be adapted in the African context? So I think it's about this. What does it mean to adapt? And I think this will be really relevant to, let's continue this, Arne and Anna, also for your settings then.
Yes, I not so far. We haven't found anything that couldn't be adapted, but I think what's really valuable is we could take what we've learned from the European partners and tailor it for our specific context. So we've learned so much from them, but the basics are still the same, but we could tailor it specifically to South African curriculum, to the South African context in terms of the resources that we have, the resources that we need, where do we need things, where do we have things. So up to now, it's been a great partnership because definitely we've been able to use the information from the European partners to tailor it to us, to our context.
Okay, fabulous. Anna, I hope this is okay for a first dip. Then I would say, if nobody else has a question, let's move on. Thanks, Anna. Anna, who's going next?
So while I'm trying to share my screen, I want to introduce myself real quick. I'm Anna Vater. I work for the International Foundation Siemens Stiftung, and I will talk and present to you today a project that is very close to my heart. It's a very lovely project that we started last year. I hope now we're in presenting mode. And this project is called Creatón STEM. It is a training, it's a teacher training program, training them as co-designers of STEM Plus. I will tell you a little bit more about our STEM Plus approach in a bit, but designing OER for real local challenges in Latin America. We are not working alone. It is a cooperative project between Siemens Stiftung. We are actually headquartered in Germany, in Munich, but we are working with a Uruguayan institution which is called CEIVAL. We are working with the Pontificia Universidad Católica de Valparaíso, which is the university in Valparaíso, Chile, and also with the University of Antioquia, which is a university from Colombia. Latin American cooperation, and yes. So why do we work on OER and also OEP for STEM education? Well, there are some challenges we are trying to address. First of all, as we know from the GEM report, the Global Education Monitoring Report from 2023, global OER are still dominated by Global North. So 90% of the OER repositories are in Europe and North America, but also in terms of content, 92% of OER Commons library, like the contents are in English or also originate from English-speaking contexts. So Latin American contexts and languages are largely underrepresented. That's one. Second, teachers are under pressure and often working alone. I think that's an international, unfortunately, international sensation. But in the region, 3.2 million teachers are needed. A lot of them leave their profession due to workload, due to lack of recognition. Salaries are also quite bad, unfortunately. So UNESCO's new regional teacher strategy calls for stronger collaboration, strengthening teacher agency so that teachers are not working isolated anymore, or less at least. And then there are some challenges due to, in the world of STEM learning. So there are a lot of gaps and inequalities. PISA 2022 showed that most Latin American countries perform well below the standard in mathematics, science. But there's also a lot of inequalities in terms of who has access to STEM careers, but also in general to performing in science and math classes. It has a lot to do with their socioeconomic background, also in terms of gender. There's a lot of inequality. So differences we are trying to address. And last but not least, actually the open education landscape in Latin America is not diverse enough. So we have some great initiatives, but actually most of them are concentrated into higher education contexts. And we are addressing basic education contexts and try to bring open educational practice actually into schools. So that's something we care a lot about. And the Creatón STEM is one of those approaches that can actually bring OEPs into school. So let's jump in. What is a Creatón STEM? It's actually, as I said, it's a teacher training model that trains Latin American teachers in co-designing, adapting, and publishing open educational resources grounded in STEM plus educational approach. Our STEM plus educational approach is actually an approach that we have designed in our network that we are collaborating in. It's called Red STEM Latinoamérica. It's a contextualized understanding of what STEM education and the STEM plus approach is in Latin America. So we know that also STEM has come from Global North, and we were trying to take the idea of STEM, but really ground it into Latin American realities. And that's what I mean when I talk about STEM plus. So it combines online modules, but also an intensive Creatón event. What is a Creatón? It's actually something like a marathon, hackathon, those kind of events, where like on 2 very intensive days, teachers come together to co-create materials based on local challenges that they identify and they analyze. And then they are going into an agile design cycle that I will tell you a little bit more about later on. It's part of a larger educational program, actually. So Creatón, we understand like as the motor. So the basis to really address those co-designing and OER competencies in teachers. But then we also provide a repository, which is called CREA. Today I will not focus a lot of my slides on CREA, but I will give you a QR code so you can get to know it. It's an open repository with STEM materials for Latin America, all in Spanish, co-designed, but also created by some partners of our network. And yes, as I said, this is a collaborative project with a lot of great partners from different countries in Latin America. This is the QR code if you are interested in learning a bit more about CREA, our open repository. I will not focus today a lot on the repository, but more on the motor, as I said, that is getting the community active to be co-designers of those resources presented at the repository. So where are we at with the project? Actually, we started last year. We got to know each other at the OE Global conference in Edmonton, Canada at that point. And it was lovely because we had discussions and we had all the same vision for Latin America and what we wanted to do. And that's how the project started. In 2010, so last year, actually, we started with the first pilot phase. We refined the methodology and part of our learnings, and we had some teachers from Uruguay, Chile, Argentina, Ecuador, Peru, Colombia, and also Mexico in the first round. But currently, we are actually we are building up a methodological model for the Creatón STEM Mass. The idea is that we are testing it in 3 diverse contexts, so it becomes a consolidated and very flexible model to be transferred to multiplier institutions. We are testing it with students, so similar to what Dorothy has provided us an insight in. We tried it with students to become teachers in Uruguay. We tried it with teachers, or we tested it with teachers from urban contexts in Valparaíso, Chile, and we also tested it with teachers from rural areas in Colombia. And we are continuing the evaluation and consolidation until March next year, so it can be published maybe during the next OE Global, and also can be transferred to multiplier institutions within our network. I want to quickly tell you a little bit more about our pedagogical pillars, as we call them, of our Creatón model. So we understand participation and also learning as a very collaborative aspect, process. It's peer exchange, so the teachers are in center, and that's also linked to the teacher agency. The teachers are seen as the central actors in pedagogical change. Their expertise in creativity drive the creatones, okay? The days where we come together, but also during the modules. Then one key element, as we saw that there's not a lot of contextualized content, we focus a lot on contextualization and cultural relevance of the resources that are being created. Then also, we really want to dig deep. We don't want people to be left out of our resources. So inclusion, diversity, and also intersectionality is one of our key pillars, one of the modules even that we are addressing in the teacher training. And also another module is also the reflexive and ethical use of technology, and mainly AI and OER creation. We know that it can help a lot in agilizing the process, but it needs to be addressed that there are a lot of biases in the training models of AI, and we really want the teachers to be critical with it. And last but not least, evaluation as a collaborative learning process. So there's a lot of peer-to-peer reviews in our Creatones, which make the resources even better as we see that. So jumping into the nitty-gritty of the modules. So as I said, we have first, before we go into those intensive co-creation bits, we start with online modules. We have 4 in total. One is about open education and the philosophy of working in open, teaching in open. So we address open licensing, we address creating, remix, and sharing OER, also the legal frameworks behind it, also UNESCO recommendations, but also open instructional design. Those are like the key modules in the open education module. Then we have STEM plus educational approach. As I said, it's a very localized understanding of what STEM for Latin America means. But we go into deep for the critical adaptation of OER from this perspective, and also OER design coming from this STEM plus educational approach. Then we have a module on inclusion and intersectionality. We have a basic module, and then we go into deeper tracks. Cognitive accessibility in OER design is one of them, and the other one is gender and intersectionality in OER design. And last but not least, the module on OER creation using generative AI. We are focusing on co-creation with the AI and evaluating also OER with help of AI. And the last module is about adapting and personalizing OER with the help of AI. Then we go directly into those 2 intense training days where the teachers come together, they're co-creating, and then they have a final, well, at least a prototype going out of the 2 days, and then they are they're finalizing those prototypes with the help also of mentoring sessions. And last but not least, we have the publication, also certification of the teachers and the resources they have been creating. So actually our design cycle is inspired by design thinking. It has different phases, but as we have only like 2 intense days to really come together to co-create, we always start with empathizing, so identifying contextual challenges and also the students' needs. Then we are trying to define the pedagogical challenge that they really want to focus their OER on. Then we go in the first ideation phase, always having in mind the students and their needs. Then we go into first prototyping. We're going into a first test with other teachers and other groups that have been working on other OER, but are in the end also the users of their OER. So, and in the end, we have the publication of the resources. I really want to show you a little bit more about what could a OER look like coming from those co-creation phases. So it always starts from a real territorial problem. So it can be water scarcity, can be local air pollution, can be loss of indigenous languages. And then we are integrating with the STEM Plus approach, different disciplines and knowledge to get closer to the problem. And we engage students in active inquiry, so inquiry-based learning as one of the key methodologies, but also design thinking. And we embed accessibility criteria and also the intersectional gender lens. And last but not least, we have a clear documentation. So metadata is being also created and defined. So publications are easy learning objectives, and also a teacher guide for using each OER is created by the team, so it can be adapted anywhere else. I know I'm a bit over, so I will just finish off with this. As we know, we really want this model to be consolidated and transferred to multiplayer institution, and we can see already the local impact that it has. So empowering teachers as designers and not only users of OER is one of the key elements that we see very important. Also, this idea of strengthening community, school, and territory interrelations, and that the OER really speak to students' lived realities. So language, culture, territory, problems that they know about. And also we have the capacity building in the use of AI for this matter. And the global contribution, we really want to see Latin American perspectives more represented in the global OER ecosystem, and we want to offer a replicable model that can even be replicable in other regions, not only in Latin America. We will start in Latin America, but also in Germany, it can be a very interesting module that we could be thinking of, about adaptation and also implementation. So that's my part. I want to give you this quote from from one of the participants. He said, we care deeply about the philosophy of sharing, of living in a more democratic society where knowledge and quality education are within everyone's reach. We have worked actively, exchanged perspectives, and co-created educational resources that are not only open, but also honor the knowledge from our territory. And I think that's wonderful. With that, I will stop, and thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, Anna. Kristen will get back to your question in the end. Arne.
Yes, that's a fast one. I try to be fast too. Maybe one little hint at the start. MINT is the acronym for STEM in German. So please do not wonder if I talk about the MINT campus. It's STEM campus if you translate it. When we talk about STEM in OER, I think the accelerating innovation through openness is a key point. I work at MINT campus in Germany, where curiosity, digital tools, and open education meet every day. And I love to be here and joining you today because I'm excited to talk about the two my favorite words, the STEM and OER. I love to combine it in our work. Yes. Let's explore how openness can accelerate innovation in education and maybe spark a few of eruptions of curiosity along the way. I'm Arne Klauke and I lead the central office at the MINT campus. We are in Germany and we are an open learning platform for everyone working to strengthen STEM education. So teachers, workshop leaders, and so on. My background is rooted in the education ecosystem, and I've spent many years building bridges between practitioners, researchers, and partners from industries, and I'm going to be at that point later on. At the MINT campus, my team and I work on creating open, accessible, and high-quality learning opportunities for STEM educators, STEM teachers, and STEM educators. We look at both of the groups because we believe that empowering educators means empowering the next generation of problem solvers. Yeah, and one big question is why STEM needs open educational resources. I think it's a very important perspective. STEM education cannot keep pace with the scientific progress unless knowledge flows openly and collaboratively. I think Anna and Dorothy showed it too. STEM evolves much faster than most textbooks can be printed, and open educational resources help us break that slow cycle we have. And it's letting new science flow directly into the classroom or in other learning curriculums. In STEM, knowledge has a short half-life, and we need materials that can be updated, remixed, and I think translated into localized problems, like you showed us, Anna. It is the problems are global, but we need to localize them and make them practicable for the regions. And in STEM, it's even more complicated because we have so big problems in our world we have to face. But OER lets us do exactly that without waiting 3 or 4 or 5 years for curriculum committees like we have in Germany to finish any sentence, because it helps teachers to take them directly into their work. And let's be honest, PDFs are great, but they rarely spark scientific breakthroughs. And today's STEM OERs include simulations, virtual labs, climate experience worlds, AI sandboxes, and so on. And there are so many good examples of STEM OERs that are open and searchable for every one of us and to adopt in local teaching environments. Just 2 examples. We have the FET or the Lab Exchange. They do globally important work. We have at MINT campus, we have the climate suitcase, which can be adopted in regions and used for interactive and good open educational resources. The magic happens at the end where the students play with science, and I think that's what we have to focus on in STEM in OER. Yeah, we also focus on professional development for educators. So open educational resources is not only something we give to learners, it's something we give to educators. Teachers can explore new concepts without paywalls, passwords, or complicated licensing, because open educational resources helps educators stay current They have new models, new experiments, new methods they can focus and learn and use in their own environment. And honestly, teachers deserve tools that make their work easier and not harder, and we have to help them with that. Open ecosystems democratize expertise by allowing educators to learn and teach this simultaneously. In STEM content alone, it isn't enough to have good content. We need guidance and how to teach it. And I think that's very important. It is something that we focus on. Many educators feel the pressure of teaching these fast evolving fields like AI, data, science, climate modeling, and they need to learn how to translate that into their curriculum. OER can empower teachers not just to reuse content, but to understand it, because they have to understand it too. And that's very complicated because STEM is so fast evolving. And this is where we need to invest more as a community. We need facilitation guides, workshop materials, and methodological toolkits which help us do that. And OER can become transformative when it empowers educators. One very important part of our work, and I think it's important for the future of OER and STEM education, is the missing triple helix in many points. Innovation doesn't happen in one silo. The best innovation, or the best STEM OER often comes from collaboration between industry, science, and education to work together. And these collaborations are still rare, I have to say. OER can be the interface where corporate responsibility and scientific innovation and also educational needs meet together and come together. We, as MINT Campus, we try to be the bridge builder in this ecosystem. We offer infrastructure, interactive learning environments, and professional development for educators. We also help partners to co-create high-quality STEM open educational resources and make sure these materials remain accessible. That's a very important part of our work, to translate between the different parts. We build bridges in STEM OER ecosystems as an infrastructure. We are like a STEM mobile, which tries to help to work these co-creation processes. And we are working on long-term sustainability and hosting STEM education needs as a stable platform and strategic coordination. So other initiatives in the STEM field can use us and use our platform to share their knowledge and their building of OERs. Right now, we have 100 and nearly 60 learning opportunities. Nearly 70 of these are MINT Campus originals. It's like a little bit like MINTflix, STEMflix, like Netflix, the originals. And we try to build more of these together with partners. And we show good examples, like 90 of them, which we are showing in the fields. I just wanted to give some insights of how the MINT Campus, the STEM campus looks like and how it is built. You can see it right here. We have also PDFs, some, and we have interactive experiments which can be used online and bring to the teachers' rooms or the workshops as well. Content isn't designed in an office. It grows out of real needs in the field. And we do co-develop with partners to ensure relevance, quality, and reach. And that's how we work. It's nearly the same as with the Siemens Stiftung. We do co-creation, hackathons, and so on with partners who work in the STEM field and help them do good OERs for everyone. We make it easy for organizations to train their teams with fully customizable learning spaces. So if there is an initiative in the STEM field, it can use our site, our platform, to onboard or to help their teams getting better in STEM education. We built these dedicated learning paths with partners, with universities and so on. And in the near future, we will try to give the opportunity to get micro degrees with and micro credentials with some of the partners we are working right now. So OERs are combined with micro credentials in universities, for example, because we have, for example, in Rhineland-Pfalz, young women who are giving workshops to students, and they are at universities, working at the universities as mentors, and they will get micro credentials from using these OERs. And the organization-specific learning spaces can be built by themselves, and we use from next year AI-related STEM learning possibilities to do that. If you want to follow us, feel free. I would love that. And in the end of the day, STEM challenges are global, and so is the OER movement. So we improve faster when we learn from one another. So let's do that together. And I'm glad that we are here to do that. Thank you very much. And if you want to reach out for me, I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you so much, Arne. I wish we had the time to now dive in and see what could each of your projects learn from the other. That would be so amazing. But time. So I will give first the question. There's one from Anna. Arne, she's curious, how do you go about integrating the industry partners into your OER development? That might also be interesting maybe down the road for Dorothy or Anna, to see how you can bring in additional partners who are currently outside of that environment.
Yeah, we go to industry partners and take them to work with teachers and workshop leaders inside of co-creation processes. So they come to hackathons and stuff like that. And some of them are giving free time to their workers, like Siemens does, for example. So they can bring their STEM knowledge into the process, because often the teachers are not from the field. They don't study AI, but many of the people working in the industry do. So they can, we give them the place to translate that into OERs and give them the possibility to be seen, because of course the industry wants to be seen as a partner who does that. And I think it's fair if they are willing to share their knowledge and to be in an open educational resources and share really everything, then I think it's a very good place to do that.
Fabulous. So a mix of like skill sharing and corporate volunteering, trying to integrate that. Okay, very interesting. We could talk about that for an hour, I guess. Any other, let's ask the audience quickly. Do you have any other questions for our three fabulous presenters? If not, maybe the three of you, do you want to wrap up in one sentence each what you've learned from the others, maybe? Or taken away from the session as such? I know, surprise, challenge.
I think the collaboration with industry is very important, and that's definitely something that I will look into future projects.
Fabulous, thank you.
I'm really looking forward to look at the Creatón design process, because next year we are going to have two big events, and I think we can learn a lot of what I saw there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, actually, it's really great to see that in Germany there are already like great initiatives. I mean, I work in Germany, even though my projects are in Latin America. But it's great to see that also with Wind Campus there's like a really thoughtful OER ecosystem already being developed and designed. Also getting industry knowledge. I thought that was really interesting, because that's something we could totally integrate also to our Creatón model. And yeah, that was really interesting to see.
Fabulous. Thank you, everyone. I love it. I think this was a very productive, very fast-paced, but very productive session. I thank all of you. Everybody showed their contact details. Remember, the recording will also be there in case we were too fast and you missed something. And thank you to all of you for your time, preparing and sharing, and also coming and listening. And thanks for all the great questions. Thank you, everyone.